Hello there.
Yeah, I'm here. How's it going?
Good, Kyle. How are you?
I'm doing good. Larry, do you get your ears lowered?
Yep.
Nice. Looks good. I like it.
It does, huh?
Yeah, not bad.
Yep.
Jesse, are you able to open that Word document I sent over?
I thought I had it up. I was just looking for it, so give me a moment.
If not, I can shoot it over to the group.
Yeah, let me work on that real quick, like. If you want to.
Yeah, so I'll jump into it. So I'll give you guys a little bit of background. One of the things we were scoped to do is kind of go back through the model and look at the Dromore area on top of that post office area and see, one, is there other alternatives that we could potentially implement to rectify the low pressures in the Dromore area? And then two, understand the maybe impacts if the post office area developed. So one of the things we did in that area is we added 20 additional connections right in that post office area, just to kind of see how the system would handle for future demands and whatnot. So what I sent out earlier, bear with us, guys. This is kind of a rough draft. This isn't anything formal, and this is probably a little bit more than what you guys maybe anticipated. But unfortunately, there's just a lot going on, so we really wanted to document things so that if you guys had questions, you could kind of see our workflow and our process and assumptions. So I think the big thing from the get-go here, you can see some of the modeling efforts and takeaways. The items that we kind of ran into, as discussed previously, is the model did not appear to be set up for those future 20-year demands. So we kind of went through and updated that accordingly. And another item that we kind of ran into is it appeared that the model was really set up for Project A versus Project E, which was selected. And I briefly chatted through that with Katie from DEQ. And I think probably some of the reason it was that way is that from kind of what I heard, Project E was kind of more or less a last minute item that kind of got added in. So I think that there's, trying to get everything wrapped up and stuff like that. So that might have been the reason why. But with that being said, we did come up with a solution in the Dromore area that will eliminate that westerly 12-inch transmission line around town. And Jesse, if you're able to scroll down and maybe just walk through this solution. So, yeah, perfect. Yep, right there. So it really starts with providing decommissioning the existing Dromore booster station and then doing some valving and controls improvements at the Cape Horn booster station and adding in a new booster pump. And basically, that booster pump is going to improve the pressure in this whole area. And one of the improvements that it jives with is the previous Project E had that 8-inch transmission line or 6-inch transmission line to the east there, that far blue line there. That was previously planned for. But we're recommending instead of a 6-inch, an 8-inch, because that'll improve your fire flows and it'll reduce your head loss. So you'll have higher pressures there. And then one of the things we're running into is in the Project E improvement projects that were selected, these two blue lines here, these transmission lines, were identified in the Project E, but there was no budget cost incorporated in your capital improvement plan for these. So what that basically means is it was identified as needed and required for that improvement project, but they weren't in your overall budget for your projects. So as you can imagine, that's kind of unfortunate, just because it's kind of tough to propose an alternative that we'd like to implement, but then those costs were never incorporated in there. So it kind of throws a little bit of a curveball. But that being said, upon looking at this in our initial evaluation, when we ran the model with these improvements, we found that it provided better fire flow and better system pressures versus the 12-inch line around town, and then on top of including these two lines that need to be incorporated with that original Project D. I don't know if does that kind of make sense?
Sure, sure. There was an awful lot of expenses that really weren't included with that 12-inch line.
Well, and that's the weird thing, Ted. I looked at it. I took a look at it with Katie, and someone else can take a look at it. It's pretty straightforward, but there's about 1,600 linear feet of pipe here that just don't appear to be reflected in that capital improvement plan for costs.
Did you, this is just on the Dormore side though, that doesn't include that other pipe from down from the reservoir that we knew in the beginning wasn't included.
So I did look back through there, Colleen, and it looks like, so there was two pipe alternatives. There was the pipe that, and Jesse, I did shoot you a Word document. I don't know if you're able to open up that other PDF with there's a project map in an email maybe. I do want to just show that other graphic. If possible. I just shot it probably 10 minutes ago, just the overall Project D improvements graphic.
If you have it on your screen, I can screen share with you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be great. What do I do?
Let me stop sharing mine.
Perfect.
And then security, share screen. All right, and then you should be able to share screen now at the bottom.
Let's see if I can get this figured out here. We're moving. Okay, can you see this screen from the facility plan?
All right.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the lines that don't appear to be incorporated are these. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Can you see these two lines there? And I could be looking at it wrong, but based on those capital improvement plans, I don't see the cost budgeted for that. Now, Colleen, you asked, hey, what about this repair and replace this existing transmission line, right?
Yep.
So I think we are covered here. That is this cost here. I'll share with you. So that is our 545, from my understanding. Well 7 to Bayview. So I believe, does that sound correct?
Well, we knew that one was in there.
Okay.
But it's the other one from the reservoir down where we all feel there are a lot of, that's an old pipe that we suspect of having lots of leaks.
Yeah.
And that was the 347, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Correct, Ted, that's right, Ted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To take the middle of the thing there.
Yeah.
So, correct, and based on that is correct. We do not have that in the budget as well.
Okay.
So, this kind of makes things a little complicated.
And Kyle, that's the one in the sanitary survey that DEQ just signaled out. Was that one, I'm sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, how that got eliminated was the factor that they assumed that the big tank on the north side of town was going in, and they wouldn't need that line from well 7 to the
from the reservoir, because they were going to replace the reservoir. Right, yeah.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's what happened. So
what I can do, if it's helpful, I can maybe rectify and update the overall project costs, incorporating those items that you guys are looking at, that they would be needed at a minimum, and just kind of share that with you following this meeting. But I think to go back to the alternatives here, I did have a discussion with Katie with DEQ. We kind of reviewed this. Bob is going to work on getting some comments back to me, but I think this option is provides great value. It simplifies some things. One of the other items that we're going to have to vet out a little bit more detail will be with this booster station here in the second graphic below. We're going to be increasing some of the system's pressures, and there'll be some pressures in that 90 to 100 ballpark. So what we plan on doing is installing individual pressure reducing valves at those. And the benefit of doing that is it'll keep the operations a lot simpler. We won't be creating a bunch of different pressure zones, so that when you have growth in the future, you're going to be able to connect onto it and not be worried about set points and control points and the pressure zones, and it'll just make it a lot simpler. I think Bob mentioned he was a little concerned that DEQ would allow us to do PRVs there, and walking through it with Katie, I didn't get any pushback on that. We work with a lot of communities that have PRVs through a large portion of their facilities. But one of the comments she did bring up, and this will be a good discussion point for Bob here, is can some of these lines support some of these higher pressures? And I can't really answer that. I don't know some of the conditions of those lines and whatnot, but that'll be something to be maybe vetted out a little bit further.
Most of the people out on the Cape have individual PRVs in their system.
Okay, that's good to know.
It's not a big deal for them. I mean,
yeah, sure.
So Kyle, if we eliminate the 12-inch line, which was, how much was that?
Yeah, so it's about 1.2 million.
So if we eliminate that, then you would have plenty of money to do the lines that we didn't put in the project? Would that be?
So, and that's where we're kind of at. I didn't want to get too far down here. I just wanted to present this kind of alternative, get your guys' feedback. And I think the next step is for you guys to kind of mull this over, and if you guys if you feel comfortable today to provide comments, but I think the next step is doing kind of a quick cost evaluation on this. Does this make sense? How does this pencil out? Hey, because we are adding a booster station, there's additional operations and maintenance costs, or a booster pump.
Right.
So that needs to be factored in. And in discussing this with Katie, something to consider is if we go to amend, if we go down this route and this makes the most sense, it's the best option for the district, we need to update the facility plan. And then in doing so, we'd have to do another public meeting, Katie.
Yeah. But I think they would be receptive to it if we get rid of the 12-inch line.
Yeah, I don't think it would hurt.
Yeah.
I will say internally when we were modeling this, and this will be kind of a discussion for the district, ideally, we would recommend this. We're showing this in the 8-inch. It'll provide your minimum pressures and fire flows for the next 20 years based on your growth and future conditions. But ideally, if we could upgrade those to a 12-inch, would really help to improve the overall fire flow and pressures even further out than 20 years.
Mm.
And you're speaking of the 3 areas in blue, correct? All 3 of them, or just that one?
Just these 2, just the 2 on the west side of the booster station. Because eventually, I think there would be some value having this, a 12-inch trunk line over to the booster station. And we definitely don't, and to back up a little bit, the concept that was originally developed, there's some good value with that. One of the items is it's going to enable the district to, as it grows to the west, provide some really great pressures and flows over there.
Right.
And then at the same time, we're not adding another pump to artificially inflate the pressures in this zone as well.
Ted, does this make sense to you?
Yeah, it does, and really the difference in laying 8-inch lines and 12-inch lines is just practically the added cost on the
Pipe,
the pipe, yeah,
yeah,
Right.
and fittings. Of course, fittings are more expensive.
No, that's spot on, Ted. Yeah.
yeah.
And
Kyle, I think that's a good way to go, is just, to just give us a general, or not general, but work up the money on it, so that
Yeah, we can do a cost evaluation and just kind of provide that back. And then what I'll do is I'll update that overall capital improvement plan table and look to see kind of where your overall budget would reflect with some of these improvements that were maybe not incorporated that needed to be. And
Okay.
then with
So-
in these improvements.
So
okay,
Kyle, I guess then, since we're gonna have to update the water facilities plan, we'll also have to do a new environmental, is that correct?
Yeah, and talking to Katie, the good news is most of these projects that we're changing are all in the roadways. So the environmental should be really straightforward.
Easy, yeah.
That resolved. But, again, Colleen, I don't want to jump to conclusions here, right? We got to make sure this is correct. And this is kind of our preliminary stab at it. I want to get Bob's feedback on it, make sure it's well vetted through from an operational standpoint. And then as we go through the costs, it might pencil out that this is maybe $200,000 in capital costs lower than the 12-inch transmission length. But then due to the operations and maintenance, it might actually be neck and neck with that. So,
Correct.
I think we'll just kind of go through that process and kind of see how it shapes out when we get there. Just want to keep an open mind on it.
yeah.
Hey, Kyle,
Yeah.
would there be any, you don't have it in there, but would there be any benefit of looping the transmission line from the end of Waller down Cherokee to connect to where it ends on Cherokee?
Yeah, let me pull it up, and you might have to give me directions here. So, are you
Okay,
talking this way?
right there and all the way, down to there.
Yeah, and so there definitely would, Larry, long term. I think especially as you start to get growth in this area, you're going to that'll definitely provide some value. But I think by installing an 8-inch from your existing here and connecting to your existing here, and then connecting your two purple lines here with an 8-inch or 12-inch,
Right.
you're really going to improve your pressures over in this area. And for
Okay,
example, with these improvements here, you can see this was running the future conditions based on, I believe, a peak hour condition. So that's 1 year, and we're, at about 190 PSI over here.
Yeah.
Office.
okay.
And that's without that. Now, Larry, it's definitely recommended in the future as you develop that you would probably want to loop those, correct?
Well, I was just thinking more of the dead ends.
Sure, absolutely.
And even if we put the 12-inch line in, a lot of this we'd have to do anyway.
Well, and Ted, that's the thing that's kind of unfortunate is in this Project E here, you'll see in this graphic, give me a second, they were originally calling out those kind of two 8-inch lines that I was showing in blue there.
Right.
As right here and right here. So, all three of these were really budgeted or supposed to be budgeted. They got this one in the budget, but they didn't get the two western sections. And, had that been in the budget, these improvements would look even better. But without, doing this 12-inch main without these two inner ties here in the middle, you would never meet minimum pressures and flow over Dormar. So they have to happen regardless.
Right.
Right.
So, and yeah. Does
All right.
that kind of give you guys a good summary?
Yep. Yep.
So why don't I do this? I think we can jump into this. I want to keep this moving and get we have some good momentum right now. I'll try to get something wrapped up by the end of next week for some costs, kind of preliminary costs. Hopefully Bob can take a look at it a little more. And then if you guys have any comments or thoughts or ideas, shoot them my way. And then I'll try to get something over to your guys' court to take a look at once we wrap this up.
Great. Sounds
No,
good.
my comment on that, as you already touched on, Kyle, is that you have some systems, and I have another one where over half the system has individual PRVs. And why DEQ would change for that, I'm not sure. But as long as we can get past that and verify the line ages and whatnot, I have no problem with it. I'm simply going with what I had heard about them not wanting to have individual PRVs anymore on customers' services.
Yeah, and Bob, I was by no means trying to. Yeah, no, I get it, and I think to some degree, you know, especially when you have an older system, you don't want to put those service lines or maybe those pipes that are in rough shape, at, you know, at a really high pressure, and you know, create those pinhole leaks.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think the other item that the board had here really quickly was to discuss the phasing of your projects. Now, we can discuss that now, or we can hold off on that until we take a look at some of these revised costs for this alternative.
Yeah, I'd rather hold off.
Yeah, it'll be